Connoisseur podcast. I'm Martin Carpenter, MD, psychiatrist, Missourian, Midwesterner, smack in the middle of flyover country. It's Thanksgiving night. I've trekked from Iowa to Missouri to have Thanksgiving with my family. We put 5 children in a minivan, and we drove about 5 hours to northwest Missouri, where I'm from. Right now I'm sitting in my old bedroom in this 100-year-old farmhouse out in the middle of, well, if you're not from here, it's nowhere, but to me it's somewhere. If these walls could talk. Well, it's good to be back. You know, you get older. I'm in middle age now, and you sometimes, you don't know how many of these trips you got left before things change. You know, parents die and get older and start living in Florida, and it puts you in a reflective state, or it does me anyway. And in keeping with Thanksgiving, it only makes sense to talk about thanks, giving thanks, gratitude. It's a key precept in mental health care. Gratitude is fundamental. And I thought I would kick this discussion off with a quote from a fellow Missourian that many of you may have heard. I used to, when I was insecure, I would call Sheryl Crow a guilty pleasure, but now I just call her a pleasure. God, you gotta love Sheryl Crow, don't you? Anyway, she's got this line. It's not having what you want, it's wanting what you've got. And that's some truth right there. So this whole concept of gratitude, what is it? Well, gratitude is being thankful. That's the way you feel when somebody gives you a gift. You feel thankful. So there's a giver and there's a receiver. So you kind of got to figure out maybe who you're being thankful to. Some people are thankful to God. It's pretty traditional on Thanksgiving to say some prayers of thanks. But you don't have to necessarily believe in God to be thankful. I think you could be thankful to the universe or whatever you want to stick in your little God box. So I recommend you do this. Now, why is it important? In a nutshell, the reason it's important is because when you're in an attitude of thankfulness, it's impossible to be in an attitude of victimhood at the same time. Victimhood is it's sort of the opposite of thankfulness in a way. It's when you see yourself as having been perpetrated upon by life, that things have happened to you that are negative repeatedly, that you're being picked on by the universe or God or people or whoever you target as the oppressor. And while it may be true that at times people do things to us that are unjust, staying in a headspace of victimhood, I can 100% guarantee you, will take you down the road of depression, isolation, loneliness, bitterness, despair, hopelessness, etc. And the way out of that, and it's a pretty quick way out really, is just to start being thankful. I have numerous people that come into my office that are they have a very difficult time being thankful. Some people do, and understandably so. When you're really depressed, it's so painful that it can be difficult to think of anything to be thankful for. So, when I get that from folks, I'll just kind of, you just start at the very basics. Well, could we be thankful for the oxygen we're breathing right now? How about fresh drinking water, grocery stores with safe food, roads, things like that? I mean, if you don't have a good handle on what to be thankful for, you start there. One of the things that keeps people from being thankful, though, is that they sometimes don't want to give up the posture of victim. because victim serves an important purpose in our life story. Primarily, if we see things as having happened to us, we don't have to take a lot of responsibility. If you see the things that are happening to you as a gift, then therein comes an obligation to use those gifts responsibly. So that might seem counterintuitive, but oftentimes in my business, the thing that's holding people down, they have a lot of mixed feelings about actually letting go. It's a strange thing to consider that somebody may want to feel bad in some ways. They may want to be a victim in some ways. There is a deal that we strike up with the devil, that we do get to feel less responsible for the way our life is, and that takes off some of the pressure. But in return, you get to feel powerless. You get to feel helpless. And you get to feel weak and isolated, like you don't have any options. That everything that's happening in your life is solely as a result of something actually happening to you, as opposed to just happening. And this is a tough one. This takes a long time to really internalize this one. Is that, the things that happen to us in our lives are a series of events wherein the dominoes that led to them were tipped long ago. I mean, if you really trace it back, why is anything the way it is right now? I'm not saying there's no free will. I think we have free will. But I think it is fair to say that the way things are the way things are because of things that have happened centuries past, thousands of years, millennia past, epochs past. And you are but a member of this species called humanity. And you are no more a victim than anyone else. In fact, that all people are victims of sorts. In fact, that all people have in their minds a list of reasons why their suffering is legitimate. It's difficult to let that go. But the way you do it is you begin to find gratitude. Now, is this touchy-feely nonsense? No, it is not. There is hard science on this. There's a book that's intriguing. It's the title of it is simply "Thanks!" And that book is full of data on the power of gratitude to transform somebody's state of mental well-being. I would argue that it is perhaps the most important factor or variable that we have control over, that we can exercise and do to change our own psychological state. It's often a homework assignment that I give people. I'll say, well, why don't you go home and write down 3 things you're thankful for every day? And it's hard to find somebody who's willing to do that. I keep saying it, but often people won't do that. But try it. Get a piece of paper and lay it on your bedside table. Every day, get up. Say thank you for 3 things. And see what happens to your mood. See what happens to the rest of that day. You might be surprised. Count your blessings. Name them one by one. The trick is you got to die to yourself. And that's hard. What does that mean, dying to yourself? That means that hunger in our heart, that drive, that craving, that thing that you just can't shake, that you try to satisfy in any number of ways, from addictive type behaviors to things that aren't considered addictions that are socially acceptable, such as, I don't know, shopping, excessive focus on sports. I mean, you can really use anything, honestly. I'm not picking on sports or shopping, but my point is that we work really hard to not die to ourselves, and dying to yourself is saying to that part of you that's insatiable, I'm not going to feed you this time. I'm going to let you die of starvation. It hurts, actually. It really does. There's a legitimate amount of psychological pain that comes along with not satisfying every one of your cravings that comes along. Now, how are gratitude and dying to yourself related? Well, the state of not being dead to yourself is essentially a state of going out there and trying to make things happen on your own. You're trying to give yourself your own gifts. You think you know what you want and what you need, and you go out and you take matters into your own hands. And you look at the situation that you're in and you say to yourself, this isn't good enough. I need to do something to change this. I need to add something. And it causes you to lose track of what you have currently, because you're always looking for something else, that next thing. And so if you look at your circumstances and you say, I'm not satisfied with this, why would you be thankful? You'd say, this isn't good enough. I'm not going to say thank you for this. This sucks. I don't like my life the way it is. Well, it's a trap, because the more that you pursue this thing that's completely unattainable, the more it begins to consume you. It's paradoxical in that all of the things that we add to our lives to try to make it complete end up owning us in the end. So you just stop and you take a look around. You get quiet. You get meditative and reflective. And you consider the true state that you find yourself in. And you look for creative ways to be thankful for it. As time goes on, as you mature and more life happens to you, you begin to see the things that in your younger days that were negative, that you thought were negative, and you begin to see those also as things to be thankful for. Well, if I hadn't have lost that job, I wouldn't have picked up and moved across the country and, started over somewhere else, met this new person that I'm now in love with, found a job that I really wanted. If I hadn't have gotten that divorce, I wouldn't have learned the skills that I needed to be in a healthy relationship. If I hadn't have gotten sick, I would have not been able to appreciate the gift of good health. And so the worst thing that ever happened to you suddenly looks like it could have been the best thing. It somehow comes full circle. And you come to understand that really assigning good or bad labels to any event becomes meaningless. And you just see them as interconnected steps on a path, that every step is in fact just a step on the path. On some level, it's impossible to deviate. You can take long detours, but the thing is, you take the length of detour that is required for you to learn the lesson you need to know. You can only do as well as you can do with the information that you have at the time. This is strange, but think about it. I mean, most people, if not everyone, is doing the best that they can. If you could do better, you would. And it seems strange because we look around at the people in our lives and we think, oh, they could do better. Are you kidding me? Look at all the ways my husband or my wife sucks. Look at all the ways my kid isn't doing well in school and just needs to try harder. Look at all the ways that my workplace is flawed and unpleasant, etc., etc. But the truth is, you're surrounded by imperfect people that are all on the same path called the human journey. And nobody's done, and everybody's in process. And that's a really freeing thing to get, because within that lies the possibility of forgiveness and gratitude for them, even in their broken state. And even more importantly, forgiveness for yourself for all the ways that you're still learning and imperfect. I don't know why we expect ourselves to be good at life. Like, it's almost as if there's this myth that you're supposed to just know things. I'm raised by imperfect parents. I go through a wildly imperfect educational system. I go off to college maybe, or some other form of training post high school, also flawed. And then I get married with no previous marital experience, perhaps, having been raised by parents who maybe didn't have a great marriage. And we somehow think that it's going to go well for us. I mean, it's if you think about it, it's absurd. It doesn't make any sense at all. But we do it, and that's fine, because you know what? We have to learn from experience. We just do. And so all those things that we learn from experience, all those mistakes, those heartbreaks, those heartaches, we become a connoisseur of them. You stop thinking of them as negatives, and you start to think of them as steps on a path which have led you where you are now. And if you don't like where you are now, then you take responsibility for the steps that you've chosen. That doesn't mean beating yourself up. It means allowing yourself to be human and not having all the information. So I urge you, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors, find it in your hearts to be thankful. If you're watching this video, that means you have the internet, means you have a computer or a smartphone with electricity, fiber optic cable under your feet. You probably have vegetables in your refrigerator that are better than most of the kings throughout human history had access to. You can walk into your local Costco and buy gourmet pies off the shelf that blow your mind. Fresh milk, organic this and that, grass-fed beef. We have homes that are insulated. Our homes are so well insulated that you have to install these air exchangers in the new ones, or people start to get low on oxygen. I mean, we're protected from the elements. We have these space age fabrics. I mean, are you kidding me with this Patagonia stuff and this marmot? You put this stuff on in Iowa. I mean, that's the key to living in Iowa, by the way, is having the right gear, or anywhere north of Iowa. You just got to go buy the right long undies and make it work. There's no way out of it. But you got these fabrics. They're wicking. You know, your bits and pieces, they stay dry all winter long. There's a lot of things to be thankful for, and there's a lot of things that are pretty funny too. And that's also part of a state of gratitude, is the ability to find humor in the things around you and see the comedy. Is life a comedy or a tragedy? This feels like a whole series of talks, but think about that. What is it? Is it a comedy or a tragedy? Is it both? The comedies have tragic parts. The tragedies have comic parts. These are the questions that keep me up at night before my handful of sleepers has kicked in. Oh, but I'm so thankful. I was there with my family, and we got a nice big family, and I try not to take that for granted. Shelley's immediate family is small. Her father passed away. Her brother passed away. Her mom lives quite a ways away, and the extended family is minimal. And I happen to have 40 people at the family Thanksgiving, and so she repeatedly says, how amazing that is to kind of be included in this family. It was something that she never really had, and she has a high level of gratitude for that. I look around and my kids are all healthy and they're playing with their cousins. There's more food. There's enough food for 100 people at these things. My sisters-in-law and my aunt and my mother and the guys too. Everybody. I mean, the cooking is off the charts. I live in a town full of great restaurants, but none of it, and I'm not even kidding, it's not better than what we have at our Thanksgiving table. It isn't. So, basically, people are making their way. They're doing their best. A few of us get knocked down once in a while. But people get up, and then they support each other, and they love each other, and they forgive each other. And what a blessing that is. It's a tremendous blessing. I think about the opportunities I was given. I had parents that could afford to send me to college. I was given a mind that allowed me to complete the schoolwork necessary to get into a career that I thoroughly enjoy. That's afforded me great advantages in our society in the form of my ability to acquire material things if I should decide to do that, but also to have work that I find meaningful, rewarding. I don't feel like I'm getting up and wasting my time every day. What a blessing. A couple of years ago, my 5 children, not my 5 children, I have 5 now with the step kids, but my 3 biological children from my previous marriage were in a severe car accident. And they were all, I don't know, I'm going to say they were maybe, 12, and what were they, 10, 8, and 6 maybe, something like that at the time. They were in a head-on collision in northeast Kansas. They were with their mom, and mom got in an accident. Accidents happen, and 2 of them had to be life-flighted to Kansas City to a children's hospital. One of them went by ambulance. I was in my psychiatric clinic working, and I get a phone call to that effect. And on the way down, I find out that all of them have had head trauma. One has a liver laceration. One's in the ICU with a broken pelvis. And I didn't know what I was going to find. It was a 5-hour drive down there to that hospital. And they're all okay. But if you don't think this world is a dangerous place, you're wrong. It's not safe. And the fact that any of us are up on 2 feet, walking and talking and safe and fed and warm and clothed, it's a goddamn miracle. We got nuclear bombs pointed at each other as we speak. We got insane people making decisions that affect millions. it seems like even more of a miracle that it's still going on to me. That it hasn't all come crashing down, because Lord knows it could. I think us younger people, my age and younger, we haven't lived through these world wars. We don't know what it's like to get drafted, watch our friends, our fathers go off to war and never come back. So don't take anything for granted, you know. Maybe this holiday, you know, you've been bickering and fighting with your family, and just try to imagine what it would be like if you got a call on Monday that your wife's mammogram came back positive, or her biopsy or whatever for breast cancer. Imagine that your husband, who's annoying you, has chest pain next week, and he's wheeled off in an ambulance, and you're not sure if he's going to come out alive. Maybe you show up to work on Monday and there's a letter in your mailbox that says you're getting laid off. Now how big does your bickering seem? It's not having what you want, it's wanting what you've got. It's not getting another thing, it's looking at all the things that you have and saying thank you. Gratitude is a successful get-rich-quick scheme. It's all it takes to get rich is just look around and see how rich you already are. Well, God bless you all. Happy Thanksgiving. And I hope this is helpful, and you know, this is something that I'd love to hear back from you on. You know, if you got stories of gratitude or comments you want to leave, feel free. If you want to email me, contact@theheartacheconnoisseur.com. This is about building a community of people who are interested in growth and emotional health, and making this world a better place by starting with themselves. So please join me in that. Come along, let's do it together. Thanks for listening.